Hi, my name is Ben Chung, and I'm going to, in this video, do a full rules read-through of Tech City, the game I designed, using the tech deck. And some people like to listen to the rules rather than have them read, so without further ado, I'm going to read the rules here. So the tech deck. The tech deck is a modern set of playing cards. Playing cards were first created in China during the 9th century. In 1370, cards were imported into Europe from Mamluk Egypt. By 1377, the French used cards with hearts, tiles, diamonds, clovers and clubs, pikes and spades. The tech deck introduces a modern version of playing cards, bringing them into the 21st century. The tech deck supports any game you could play with classic playing cards and introduces card effects to spice up any game. It is meant to be a game platform. There are 4 domains or suits in the tech deck. There are knowledge, information technologies. So knowledge is information accumulated by experience, observation, and discovery. It's the theoretical and practical understanding of the subject foundational to science and technology. The science or beaker is research and development, and science is organized knowledge with testable explanations. The natural sciences, biology, chemistry, and physics, study nature. The social sciences, economics, psychology, and sociology, focus on societies. The formal sciences, logic, mathematics, and computer science, are for abstract concepts. The technology or gear domain, or suit, represents industry and manufacturing. Technology is the application of scientific knowledge for practical purposes. Engineering is the creative application of science and math to the design and construction of machines, systems, and processes. The services or globe suit or domain represents non-good industries, public and professional services. So services are the integration of knowledge, science, and technology to create products that benefit consumers. Service industries include communications, retailing, professional services, and governmental services. Tech City introduction. The Levantine cities, such as Jericho, first sprang up in the Mesopotamia between 5500 BCE and 3800 BCE during the Bronze Age. Today, 55% of the world's population inhabit urban areas. A modern city is a harmonious integration of technological developments, scientific applications, and modern services that cater to its citizens. A synchrony of companies come together to deliver utilities, resources, and services to support a thriving metropolitan city. Tech City represents the development of a high-tech, high-touch, contemporary city full of marvelous wonders. In Tech City, players will build companies, represented by cards, which expand the capabilities and services available to all its inhabitants. In game setup, you start by putting the 3 of service, or the globe, which is the delivery services card, in the center of the play area. This is the seed card for Tech City. Tech City cards are said to be in play, and if you're playing with 5 or 6 players, it's suggested that you use 2 tech decks. Throughout the game, all service cards are said to be neutral and uncontrolled by any player. Then you deal cards to players, shuffle the cards, deal 6 cards to all the players, and then you form a deck and discard. The remaining cards form a deck, and there will be a discard next to it. The first player is randomly chosen and given a marker or token to denote that they are the first player. Phases in a round summary. Each round is composed of phases, starting with the first player and going clockwise. Each player may build up Tech City. Each player may play a card into Tech City. You pay for the cost of the card, score the card, and the player places his marker on the newly placed card, and the services card are communally built. Then you use company effects. Each player may use the game effect from any Tech City card. If a player uses an effect on a card that is controlled by another player, the owning player may draw and discard a card. End of round. All players discard down to 6 cards, or 5 in a 5 or 6 player game, and those with less than 3 draw until they have 3 cards in hand. The first player marker is passed to the next player on the left, clockwise, and then the game ends after 6 rounds. So the build up Tech City phase. First, you can, starting with the first player, each player may play a card into Tech City representing a company. A new card must be connected orthogonally, horizontally or vertically, to another card in Tech City. Paying for a card. To pay for the cost of building a new card, you discard a card with a value of 7 or less, or you discard any 2 cards of any value. If you control a technology company, you can discard a card of any value to pay for its cost. If you have 2 technology companies, you can build the card for free without having to discard a card. Placing a marker. The player who played the company card places one of their markers on the card they added to Tech City. You can use coins, poker chips, or tokens to denote ownership. Scoring. If there's another card anywhere in play in Tech City matching the value of the card just played to Tech City, that player scores 1 base point. If there are 2 other matching cards of the value, a triple, you score 2 base points. And if there's 3 other cards, a quadruple, then you score 3 base points. If 2 or more base points are scored and that player controls 2 science companies, they score an additional bonus point. If the player placed the card next to 2 of their companies, orthogonally or diagonally, they score an additional bonus point. Placing a service card into Tech City. Service cards are special. It requires at least one other player to discard a card to help build it. Starting with the active player, each player may discard any card of any value to help build the service card. If at least 2 cards were discarded this way, the service card is completed and placed into play following the normal placement rules. It scores normally for the player with a minimum of 1 point scored. Assisting players each also score 1 point. Do not put any player tokens on the service card because it's neutral and not controlled by any player. The wild card. The wild card has the value and domain of another card in play chosen when playing the card. It enters the board as a company of the value and domain chosen for scoring purposes. After it scores, it is replaced by a card from the top of the deck. If the card is a non-service card, place the player token on the replacing card. The wild card can also be used to pay for any build. In both these cases, expel the wild card, in other words, remove it from the game after it's used. If a wild card would replace another card by a game effect, instead expel it and draw another card. The use company effects phase. Starting with the first player who has the first player marker, each player may choose to use a game effect from any company, in other words, any card in Tech City. If a player uses an effect on a card that is controlled by another player, the dealing player may draw and discard a card. If you do not score points from new cards coming into play through game effects, if you search the deck, shuffle afterwards. If a game effect searches for a card of value and domain, and it is not found, the card has no effect. Knowledge companies. If you control 2 knowledge companies, that is your player markers are on 2 cards that you've played on 2 knowledge, 2 knowledge book companies, then you can use the effect of one of your knowledge companies for free once per turn. You may use this free effect before or after you use another company effect. Neutral cards. A neutral card is a card in Tech City not controlled by any player. All the service cards are neutral. If a neutral card is replaced, it will also be neutral. So some game effects on cards reference neutral cards. Multiple uses. Effects from non-service companies can only be used once a turn. You can keep track of that by tilting them. The game effect of service companies, though, can be used multiple times in a turn by different players. Service companies, remember, are neutral and uncontrolled. Chaining abilities can occur. Any ability used by one player may create the opportunity for another player to use new game effects. So for example, a replace company card could be used the turn that it comes into play. If multiple effects need to be resolved, the active player chooses the order. Do a sentence at a time as you resolve effects. The deck running out of cards. If the deck runs out of cards or a player needs to reveal more cards than are in the deck, do as much as possible. Then shuffle the discard to form a new deck and finish the effect. For example, to reveal 4 cards in a deck that only has 2 cards, you reveal the 2 cards of the deck, create a new deck, reveal an additional 2 cards, and if there's still not enough cards in the deck, you reveal as much as possible. The end of round phase. First, all players will discard down to 6 cards or 5 cards in a 5 or 6 player game. Then you draw if you have no cards. So starting with the first player, if any player has 3 cards in their hand, less than 3 cards in their hand, they'll draw until they have 3 cards in their hand. And then game end check. After the 6th round, the game ends. And if it didn't end, you pass the first player marker to the person on your left clockwise. Solo play. To play solo, place 1 new card into Tech City during the build phase. Service cards are built by discarding any card. General rules. Reshuffling. If a game effect requires you to draw or reveal cards and there are not enough cards in the deck to do so, shuffle the discard pile with what is left of the deck to form a new deck. Looking at piles. Any player may look at the discard. This is public information. Revealing. To reveal cards, expose the cards for all to see, then return them from where they came, preserving the order that they had. A player who looks at a card may choose to divulge the information. A card that's expelled is permanently removed from the game. Exchanging. Exchanging 2 cards causes them to swap places with each other, putting one where the other card was. So for example, exchanging from the top of the deck with a card in your hand causes the top card of the deck to change places with the card in your hand. Replace. To replace a card, discard it and put the replacing card in its place. Terms and definitions. Discard. Discarded cards go to the discard pile. Domain, one of the 4 suits in the game: knowledge, technology, science, and services. Pick, the act of selecting something, a player, card, or company. Phase, one of the parts of a round. Round, a complete set of operations performed by all players. It's composed of phases. The game is played in a series of rounds. Suit, a term used interchangeably with domain. The traditional suits, club, hearts, spades, and diamonds, are also printed on the cards in the tech deck for your convenience. For more information, you can visit BoardGameGeek.com or visit my website, chung.innerzone.com. And other games with the tech deck is used to play poker or any game that can be used that you might play with a classical 54-card deck. The only extra rule is that each turn, a player may reveal a card from their hand and perform an effect on the card, then discard and redraw that card. You can also try Tech Grid Poker, another game designed to use for the tech deck. And for more information, see Board Game Geek or my website. So thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed the full rules read-through for Tech City, and you'll enjoy playing the game.